Hi everyone. This is the lesson for uh, February 28th, Tuesday, and this is on double and half angle formulas. So we we have the three from the addition formulas, right? Instead of having sine of a plus b, we can have sine of a plus a. So that is sine of 2a. And so from the addition formulas, you can derive, as we did in the worksheet for Monday, you can derive the double angle formulas. So here we have it, and this is just a notation. So sine of 2 times an angle is equal to 2 times sine of the single angle times cosine of the single angle. Now, you can write this in any way you want. So I could have written also sine of 8a, right, is equal to, so what is 8a is, so this guy is double this, or a is half of that, right? So sine of 8a is 2 times sine of 4a times cosine of 4a, right? Because you can think of sine of 2 times 4a is the same as 2 times sine of 4a times cosine of 4a. So the notation is really everything. For example, I could have written this as sine of x is 2 times sine of x over 2 times cosine of x over 2, because 2 times x over 2 is another way of writing sine of x, right? So 2 times the angle is 2 times sine of the angle times cosine of the angle. And this follows through for all the double angle formulas. Cosine of 2a is cosine square single a minus sine square single a. And as we did, if you replace the identity cosine square a with 1 minus sine square a, you will end up with this guy. And if we replace sine square a with 1 minus cosine square a, you will end up with this identity. These ones are really important to know. Really important to make sure you completely know them. Easy to remember. Sine of 2a is 2 sine a cosine a. Cosine 2a is cosine square a minus sine square a, or 2 cosine square a minus 1, or 1 minus 2 sine square a. And tan of 2a is just this 2 tan a over 1 minus tan square a, which also follows from the tan addition formula of, if I just did tan of a plus a, right? Okay, so with this, let's just do a standard example involving these double angles. So suppose I've told you that tan of x is negative 4/5, and x is bigger than pi over 2 and less than pi. So that means angle x is in quadrant 2. The question is find sine of 2x, cosine of 2x, and tan of 2x. Okay. I would say for all these problems, first just be clear what is asked of you. So you're given tan of an angle x, and you're asked to find sine of double that angle, because this is x and this is 2 times x. So the moment you recognize that, you know I'm going to use the double angle formula. So I know sine of 2x is 2 times sine of x times cosine of x. So all we need to do is find out what is sine x and cosine x and plop it in here. And we know also cosine of 2x, and we could use any three of the forms, cosine square x minus sine square x, or 2 cosine square x minus 1, or 1 minus 2 sine square x, whichever one we want to, any of these three you can use. Okay. All right, so really it looks like we first need to find sine x and cosine x. So we are good at this. So x is the second quadrant, where tan is opposite over adjacent. But remember, I want to make this on the unit circle. So this is actually the 3, 4, 5. No, so 16 and 5. Sorry, 16, 25 and 16. So this is square root of 41. So I divide everything. The hypotenuse was square root of 41. So I divide everything by, make the hypotenuse 1. So divide everything by square root of 41. So we have sine of x is 4 over root 41 and cosine of x is negative 5 over root 41. Okay. So what is sine of 2x? Is simply 2 times sine of x, which is 4 over root 41, times cosine of x, that is negative 5 over root 41. That's all there is to it. That is negative 40 over 41. Cosine of 2x, let's just do 1 minus sine, that's so it's cosine of 2x is cosine square x, so that's 25 over 41, minus sine square x, that is 16 over 41, that is 9 over 41. Cool. And tan 2x, tan is 2 times tan of x, right, over 1 minus tan square x. So that is simply 2 times negative 4/5 plus tan of x. And this is 1 minus tan square x is 16 over 25. So that is negative 8 over 5 over 25 over 25 minus 16. That's 9 over 25, which is negative. Keep, change, flip. So that becomes common factor is 5, negative 40 over 5. Boom. So this is the double angle at work. Okay, let's now look from the double angle of this one's the cosine 2x. We get the very, very useful now, the half angle formulas. The good news, you don't have to memorize because you can always derive it from the cosine double angle. So what is the half angle formula? So first, let's just rewrite. Cosine of 2x is, we're going to just write the two other, the two forms, cosine square x, 2 cosine square x minus 1. And the other one is cosine of 2x equals 1 minus 2 sine square x. So what we're going to do for each of them, we're going to solve for cosine of x here and sine of x here. So let's add 1 and divide by 2. So cosine square x is 1 plus cosine 2x over 2. Or cosine x is plus or minus the square root of 1 plus cosine 2x over 2. Okay. Similarly, on the other side, we want to isolate the sine x. So first, maybe let's bring the 2 sine square x to this side and subtract cosine 2x to the other. Divide by 2 and take the square root. So sine of x is equal to plus or minus the square root of 1 minus cosine of 2x over 2. This is simply the half angle formula for sine and cosine. Now, how is it half? You can see here, cosine of this angle of x is plus or minus square root of 1 plus cosine of double that angle. Or in other words, cosine of half this angle is given by square root of 1 plus cosine 2x over 2. Sine of half of this angle, which is x, is given by this formula. So the half angle formula for cosine of x is plus or minus square root of 1 plus cosine of twice that angle over 2, and which is 2x. And half angle for sine x is plus or minus square root of 1 minus cosine of double that angle over 2. Okay. We could written this in any way. Suppose I wanted cosine of 5x. is plus or minus square root of 1 plus cosine of double that angle, which will be 10x over 2. Similarly, sine of 5x will be plus or minus square root of 1 minus cosine of double that angle, that is 10x over 2. Right? You can write even what is cosine of x over 2 of the angle x over 2, that is plus or minus square root of 1 plus cosine of double that angle, what is 2 times x over 2, x. And sine of x over 2 is plus or minus square root of 1 minus cosine of 2 times x over 2, which is x, cosine of x over 2. Okay, this is the half angle formula for sine and cosine. And for tan x, the half angle is basically, if you had done I could say, I guess, tan x. I'm going to just write it now. Maybe we can derive this in a bit. So tan of an angle is equal to 1 minus. So if you want to use the half angle, you could have just said tan of x is also sine this guy over cosine, which is this guy. Correct. You could have written it that way. So tan of x is 1 minus, turns out to be 1 minus cosine of double that angle. So same again, over sine of double that angle. Okay. Or it can be also written as sine of double that angle over 1 plus cosine of double that angle. Okay, so that is the half angle for tan. So again, if I wrote it as tan of x over 2, that it will be 1 minus cosine of 2 times x over 2, which is cosine of x over 2. Or I could have used the other form, over sine of 2 times that, which is sine x, or the other form, which is sine of double of x over 2, which is x, over 1 plus cosine of double of x over 2, which is okay. Hang on. So I think we can stop here. Maybe let me see if I can quickly at least one problem. So let's say example. Suppose I wanted to find what is cosine of pi over 12. So we did this using the addition formula, right? Finding two multiples of special angles which will add up to give you, or subtract to give you pi over 12. The nice part is with the half angle, you don't have to think too much. You can automatically do it. So cosine of pi over 12 is plus or minus the square root of 1 plus cosine of double this angle. What is 2 times pi over 12? It's pi over 6 over 2. Okay. Now, what is this plus or minus we keep saying? The plus or minus depends on the quadrant in which the angle of cosine terminates. So if the angle terminates in the first or the fourth quadrant, it's a positive root. And if the angle terminates in the second or the third quadrant, then it would be a negative root. And here we know pi over 12, it's a 12th of pi is clearly in the first quadrant, right? Because pi over 2 is 6 pi over 12. So this is the first quadrant where cosine is positive. So this is just 1 plus, and what is cosine of pi over 6? We know it's the opposite, that is 1/2. This is root 3 over 2. So it's root 3 over 2 divided by 2. You've talked about, you can simplify this compound fraction. So multiply top and bottom by the least common multiple of the denominator, which is 2. So this becomes square root of 2. This 2 when you distribute cancels, so plus root 3 over 4, which is square root of 2 plus root 3 over You can, square root of a fraction is a fraction of the square roots. So that is 2 plus root 3 square root over. Done. Okay. So I'll stop here. I don't want it to go too much. All right.